Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Saturday morning D&D show. My name is Jordan with a silent PH in the middle, and I'm joined always by my wonderful co-host, Sir Lucian, over at Sir Lucian Gaming. Say hello and good morning.
Hello and good morning, everybody. Most of the time I'm here.
Most of the time,
Yay.
not all the time. Yes, for those of you in chat who are watching the YouTube stream, that was Mrs. Jordan, as everyone's been calling her, running around doing some awesome stuff. She's just a great human being, and I'm going to talk about how wonderful she is, and maybe she'll hear me. Maybe not.
But is her PH silent? Maybe hers isn't.
I don't know. Oh, there she is.
Maybe
Hi.
it's not.
You were just briefly in the camera because I have this camera pointed that way. So yeah, and everyone like, oh, it's Mrs. Jordan. Ew. So yeah,
no,
that's who you are now.
You're Mr. Shannon.
I'm Mr. Shannon. That's what we
there
were
you go.
Welcome everybody. We are a Dungeons and Dragons podcast talking about all things D&D in the world of role-playing games, and lots of stuff's going on. For one, there's a little book that came out called Rime of the Frostmaiden, Icewind Dale book, and that is out. Have you looked at it? Have you done anything with it? Can we even talk about it today?
I know. Yeah, no. I think you can because you got yours, so that's good. I was so busy this week, I've not got down to the game store. I want to do that maybe this weekend to pick up my cover. I've still got to. I always hem and haw when I get there which cover I want. Do I want one of the special edition ones or the regular one? And you brought up a good point about which cover to choose.
Yeah, we talk about this, I think, every time a new book comes out.
Yes.
And it's like, well, what cover do you get? And sometimes, like, let's see, the Mordenkainen cover, I don't think I cared for that one. And the Saltmarsh, and I'm talking about the alternative covers. Yeah. The Saltmarsh cover is going to be, or I didn't like that one as much either. It was just the big fish one. So with that in mind, I did like this cover. These are the Hydro 74 covers, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So did you make a decision?
Not yet. I always get there and I hold them in my hand and I think, which one do I want?
I have people talking to me. I apologize. That's why I'm a little space cadet right now. I do not get the special edition covers because I like all of my books to match on the shelf.
Yeah.
And although now I'm kind of building, I'll show this maybe next week. I'll point the camera if I can finish the wall. But I'm going to point, I have my Forgotten Realms map over there. This is my gaming room. And I bought the Spirit Halloween Drist swords, and I think I'm going to mount them on the wall on either side of my map. And then I want to build a shelf where I can put all of my 5th edition adventure books up and just have them sitting there looking cool so you can see the art and all that other stuff. Then it would be really cool to have the special edition covers or the Beetle and Grimm stuff for all that other things that come with a lot of the cool art and what have you. But I don't know.
You know, it'd almost be nice if they just, I don't know if it's 8x11, but it's about the size of a piece of paper. If they just sold like little sheets of all of those art that you could then either collage them together or you could put them on different things and they're just, thin pieces of paper, but it has the really nice looking art on it. Or maybe it's a really nice paper too, so it has the texture and the feel to it. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, no, they need to have a poster, like the poster option, because I really like the alternative cover for Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, but I don't want that as the book cover. Like I want that as like a really nice poster on the wall, and I will pay for that. I'm like, they need to have a place where I can just buy the poster. I think that's really cool.
I like it.
But anyway, yeah, I picked mine up on Amazon. I know it's like,
so
not
Amazon
cool
shipped it.
I know it's not cool to support your, like I need to support my local gaming store, but like I just am busy and I can't get out there. And for talking about it and review purposes and being in the know, I like to get it, and Amazon does the same day delivery. So I did that route. And actually I had the baby went to sleep really early last night. And so I was like, well, I have all this free time. And I was going to work on some videos, but then I decided I wanted to just sit down and really read Frostmaiden. So I got through the whole thing last night. I didn't meticulously read it, but I went from, okay, this chapter is kind of going over here, and this is the main story, and then the story takes us here, and they have to battle this guy. And my initial thoughts is it's really fun. And one of the things I liked about previous things that they've been making, we'll talk about, what is the word? Ghosts of Saltmarsh. Mm-hmm. I liked that for how...
That's a great book.
It is a great book. And I really liked that book for how open it was. In the sense that it was very modular. I think that's the word I'm looking for. So if I wanted to start a party at 5th level, I could, and then they could just start here and we could run through. And it's like, they don't need to really know all of the previous stuff. It's just like, here's what's happening now. And looking at this, it goes from levels 1 to 11 or 1 to 12, I forget. And you can start at level 1. But really getting from 1 to 5 is just you being a part of 10 towns and getting to know the people there. Mm-hmm. So from those first 5 levels, you're doing various little missions for people in 10 towns. You're running around and you're helping them out, getting to know the lay of the land, but it's still a little too dangerous for you to go out into the tundra of Icewind Dale, so you're just kind of helping people out. But through that, you can set up a base of operations. The town really likes you, so you'll be able to like buy a house there, and so you can have a home within within 10 towns, which is really cool, and I like that a lot. And then at level 5, it's like, okay, we got to go check out this stuff that's like rumors are like happening way in the deep of the frozen tundra. We got to go check it out. And then you go and you explore that and things like that. So I was not super keen on just like playing this. Or I didn't want to start another game at level 1 because I'm tired of level 1. But
Sure.
This, you really could start at level 5 super easy. And it's kind of like that. I feel like they learned a lot from Storm King's Thunder with that chapter that's just like, go and explore, and it's just kind of this sandboxy area. That's what it feels, because there's a table of 10 towns and you can roll on it and you're like, okay, my party's going to start in this one, Bryn Shader, or some, one of the 10 towns. And then here's the quest that you can do in that area. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I like how Chris Perkins had said that when they were thinking about building this one, they were thinking about location, Icewind Dale. They hadn't done a lot of stuff there. They were really wanting to bring the environment in on an adventure, so that they kind of chose this one to focus in on that. But he did call it a sandbox campaign. And then Jeremy had mentioned also that they learned some lessons from their essentials kit, where you could really take pieces and parts from the book, and you don't have to do them in the order from page 1 to page, however many there is, because you can mix and match them. And they wanted to do that in this book also. So he thought that this book really would feel very sandboxy, but also little sandboxes that could be played in different orders too, depending on what the Dungeon Master wanted to do. And it sounds like they nailed it. Just by the way, you're just talking about what you read last night. They nailed what they were saying they were trying to do. So a very sandbox type adventure, which means that leaves it very open for a Dungeon Master to improv, put stuff in, add stuff in, but also puts it in so that they can do it in any order they want. And Jeremy had said one thing, that this hopefully adventure would be easier to prep, because you could really focus on the part of the sandbox that you're in, and you don't really need to know all the other pieces to get going. You don't have to look that up until your players actually get there. Kind of thing. So.
No, for sure. And they, even later on, like after you leave 10 towns with all of those little side missions, there are 3 big plots that are kind of happening all at the same time. And that's also, I mean, it sounds like, oh, well, why do we have 3 plots? Well, it's kind of set up that you as a dungeon master, which one is your party interested in? If they're really focused on this thing over here, then you can take that and, go and do that. And so I like that as well, where you weren't tied into just doing, I don't know, like, it's not a big secret at this point, but there's like a sunken Netherese city that's under the ice, and how it got there and what it's doing there. But there are a bunch of like wizards and stuff that are coming to Icewind Dale because they've heard about this and they want those like ancient magical artifacts. And so that is one possibility for you to save Icewind Dale. Another possibility is for you to go fight this guy that's trying to take over the not the world, but like Icewind Dale as a whole. And another one is just like, we're going to go talk to the Frostmaiden, directly and find out why she's doing this,
Right.
And depending, like if you have a lot of wizards or a lot of clerics or druids, they might go in different directions, based on character choices. And another really cool thing is they incorporated secrets. So there are cards that you can photocopy in the book, and your players could either choose a secret, or they could do that. You could openly talk to secrets about other players, but or you could keep them secret, like they're kind of supposed to be. But it adds an extra level of like, oh yeah, we're walking down here, and it's like you see this, and everyone's like, okay, but that one guy who has the secret that's related to that is just like, all right, I have something to tell you. Like, we need to go take care of this right now. And it's like, what? And so that's a fun. Players like to have something that they can spring on the party in a way. Just like Dungeon Masters like doing that too. It's like, oh yeah, you guys were in a dream the whole time. This is Inception, the game. Right. Anyway, so that's a really cool aspect. And like we were saying earlier, I think that they are doing a really good job of learning from their past stuff that they've written.
Right.
Like we're seeing like a progressive, well, except I didn't really care for Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, but that's another story.
Yeah. Well, and I think the idea with the secrets too is a very fun thing to give players to kind of hold over each other. And it's a mechanic that works not only for the characters, but it's a fun thing that's happening with the players, because the players can get some interaction with each other, trying to figure out, because everybody will know basically that everybody got a secret, but nobody knows who got what secret or what the secret is, and then how do they get the secret out without letting their secret out. And then sometimes the adventure might throw your secret out in front of everybody, and now it's out there, and now what do we do type thing. And so that's a really cool, fun mechanic to throw into the idea that you're in a world that's a very isolated feeling world. And I think as a dungeon master in this adventure, you want to really kind of focus in on that isolation, focus in on what it means to be out in this area. And everybody there, the players have secrets. So you should immediately imagine that everybody that goes to Icewind Dale, the only reason anybody puts up with that type of a harsh frontier is they've got bad secrets too, right? Because if they could live in the sunny beach area and drink Mai Tais all day, they would have done that. But nope, something happened. Now they're up here.
Yeah, and there is like no sunlight. It's just really dark, really harsh everything. And so, I don't know. Another really cool thing I liked about this is that because it's so modular and stuff, this is a good book for one-shots. Like if you have a new group of people and you're just like, hey, do you want to do this? You could open this up and be like, all right, you're in this town. This guy has contacted you because there is a Yeti problem and he needs you to go take care of it. And like, there's your 2 hours of D&D. They get to talk to this person. Maybe there's some kind of skill challenge to get there. They have to figure out a puzzle of like, well, not a literal puzzle, but like just how do we go through the snow without this? They take care of the problem. They come back. They get a reward. Wow, D&D was fun. Well, we could keep playing because I've got a whole book here. And if you didn't like that, we can go do something else. But it's I like it a lot. So
very cool.
Yep. Go ahead.
So how many artwork is going to be good in
Artwork's
there?
amazing.
Was there most of it's Dungeon Master stuff? Did we get anything player centric in this book? I didn't know if we didn't get classes or races that got introduced.
They updated the Goliath race. So the Goliath race is in this book because Goliaths are from the north and stuff. And now Goliaths have cold resistance as a racial feat. And I think they upgraded D&D Beyond. So if you go to Volos, where the Goliath originally was, he now has cold resistance. It's just a ninja update that they did. There's a couple magic items, but they're very tied to the story. So it's kind of like, but there are 2 new spells. One of them is called Frost Fingers, and it's kind of like Burning Hands, where Burning Hands does a cone of 3d6. This does a cone of frost that's 2d8. So that's kind of cool. And it can be upscaled and things like that. And then there's a really cool spell called Blade of, I want to say Disaster or Disaster Blade. I should have looked this up beforehand. I apologize. But it's a 9th level spell.
Ooh, okay.
For wizards.
End game.
End game, yeah, 100%. And so it really kind of, I think I think it's there because there's some like rogue intelligent spells that are running around. So the new monsters, there are these like living spells, and one of them is this Blade of Disaster and stuff. It's kind of interesting.
That's cool.
Let's look at magic and wizard spells. Blade of Disaster, I was right. So it's a bonus action and concentration for a minute, and you create a blade-shaped planar rift about 3 feet long. So you have this sword that actually isn't a sword. It's a dimensional portal, but it's so thin that you can wield it like a blade. And you make magic attacks, magic melee attacks with it. And it does 4d12 force damage, which is like, okay, that's kind of cool. But you can score critical hits on a 20, a 19, or an 18.
Ooh,
and when you score a critical hit, it does an extra 8d12 on top of the 4d12. So every critical hit, you're doing 12d12 force damage. And this, you can like let it go, and it can like go around, I think 30 feet of you. Bonus action, you can move it around for 30 feet. And
almost like a spiritual weapon.
It is. Yeah. Only it's like a cool spiritual weapon. No, spiritual weapons are a great spell. The downside is its concentration, but much like Mordenkainen's sword or something, there's a 7th level spell that's a lot like spiritual weapon, but spiritual weapon is better in every way. This is kind of like, yeah, you can anyway, because it's also a planar rift, it can go through barriers really easy, like just harmlessly, like it just floats right through them because it's literally bending space around it, I guess. I thought that was really cool. There's a 7th level transmutation spell called Create Magen, which is you create a construct using some stuff, and you actually use a bit of your own blood. And when you cast this spell to create these constructs, it lowers your hit points permanently by a set amount. And even if the construct dies, those hit points never come back. Like that's your sacrifice to create this creature. Wow. Which I thought is kind of cool because it makes an interesting sacrifice. And they're strong creatures. I don't know if they can be healed or repaired. I assume you could like repair them somehow. They didn't have a lot of information on that, but it's
because you're not creating a bunch of those. Then you might get 1 or 2 off ever. And
well,
then you'd
yeah,
be like, well, I got hit points. I can't keep giving them
exactly.
up.
I mean, you could create an army of them and have 1 hit point. And I say army, you could create like a dozen maybe. But like that's a lot of money, first of all, because it costs money to do that, and then on top of that, So I don't know, but I like having that sacrifice. It's kind of cool. And that was it. So player centric, no, but and the magic items are, like I said, they're very tied to the. Oh, there was the scroll of Tarask summoning. That's kind of fun.
Everybody needs one.
Everybody needs one of those. Oh, and there's something called a professor orb that basically acts like a Alexa or a Siri. Oh, like nice. It just follows you around and you're like, hey, professor orb, what's the like blah, blah, blah. And it'll tell you things and it's kind of fun.
It needs a name. It needs a cool name then.
But no, I think, it's an adventure. It's mostly for players 100 or for DMs. But I think it's a really cool adventure. I like where it's going. I like the whole thing. And I like how modular it is. And it's kind of like, it just reminds me of all the good things of Ghost of Saltmarsh. And I like that a lot. So, yeah.
Very cool. Well, yeah, if I was going to run it for sure, and I knew I had a group, I probably would get it on my Roll20 then, because I'm sure they're offering it there. Because then you get all the maps and all the tokens and all the lighting and everything, and all that stuff's ready to go for you to play it. So that'd be kind of cool. Well, that's interesting. I think it's a cool one. I love the artwork to it. I love the atmosphere of it. I like it takes us to a different area we haven't really been into. We get a little bit off the Sword Coast in a way, much more north, but so that's kind of cool.
Icewind Dale's, it had 2 video games, Icewind Dale 1 and 2 back in the day. And it's had a lot of stuff in that aspect. And R.A. Salvatore's whole Crystal Shard novel series takes place in Icewind Dale. So it's not an unfamiliar place, but it is unfamiliar from the previous adventures that we've been getting,
Right. So. It's nice to get 5th edition up in there to kind of represent some of that too. So
I really
do we think it's the last Forgotten Realms adventure, or do we think there's still another Forgotten Realms adventure coming? Like what big city haven't we done, or what big area we haven't done besides heading out to?
Kalimshan,
You think they would do those?
Go real south on the Sword Coast. That's the only thing I could think of, unless they want to just jump over to Thay, something interesting like that. You know, there's
I'm
lots.
Surprised they haven't capitalized on a good Thay adventure.
We've had Thay villains in a lot of these adventures, but we haven't had Thay. Boy, I mean, of the 4 years now, I've been making YouTube Forgotten Realms videos. I always think I'm going to run out of stuff, and then I uncover one little thing, and I'm like, what the? And then I just rabbit hole of information. So if they wanted to, they could make adventures till they're blue in the face. But who knows? They might be, I think they like these Magic the Gathering source books, and maybe that's another thing. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they made not necessarily a hardcover, but what if they made a soft cover, like, here's 3 adventures in Ravnica. There's a lot of Magic the Gathering people that would be like, well, now I can utilize my Ravnica book that I bought, my setting, and I've got these fun adventures to play, and they're all themed in Magic the Gathering. I don't know. Now that I say that out loud, I'm kind of surprised they haven't done something like that. But
well, we know we've gotten Waterdeep, Baldur's Gate. We kind of got Cholt. So Port
Nyanzaru is that's Cholt.
And then we got Icewind Dale. We
Storm
really
King's
haven't
Thunder?
gotten that one takes part in Waterdeep and then heads out. But in there, we get Daggerfall we haven't really gotten, but that's a town, not really a city. The one I keep thinking
Luskin is a big
Luskin
city
maybe.
that we haven't really done, but
not very big, but yeah. What about Silvery Moon? We haven't got anything out of Silvery Moon, which is a big kind of, it's got a elven touch to it. It's got a magical district that's almost Harry Potterish in some ways, with I'm trying to think of the school of magics that are there, and I think that'd be a really cool place that they haven't really touched on either. I loved it when I got my players there for the first time running Storm King's Thunder, because Storm King's Thunder takes you everywhere in the Sword Coast, which is really cool. You have a chance to do anything and everything with that one, because it is one of the most detailed Forgotten Realm adventures I've ever seen. If you read through that book, if you want to know a lot about Forgotten Realms, or at least playing your adventures or putting your campaign in Forgotten Realms, I definitely recommend picking that one up for sure. Because like you said, chapter 3, when you go to sandbox mode, it's like crazy cool, the stuff they've put in there about the different places on the map. And it's humongous, all the stuff that's going on. So very cool. Well, I guess that one's cool. I know I'm super excited for Tasha's, which is the one after that, which is the more player-centric book that we all get more options. I know that we're in Celebration D&D right now for this weekend. I mean, we're having our Saturday morning D&D show during the 2020 D&D celebration, which is cool. They're streaming right now. If you've been watching that, did you catch any of the celebration thus far, Mr. Jordan?
I watched the Chris Perkins and Jeremy Crawford spoke together about mostly Rime of the Frostmaiden and just why it was cool, and a couple of like design going forward with Tasha's. There was a game yesterday that I caught a little bit of. And then this morning I was talking with Ted from Nerd Immersion, and he's just like, dude, this interactive map for the D&D celebration has got all these like Easter eggs going through. He's like, look at this stuff that I got. And I'm like, what? So I actually was planning on watching it or kind of seeing what the coverage was. And then I spent all morning trying to figure out puzzles. So if you guys aren't aware of it, if you go to the D&D Beyond celebration, not D&D Beyond, sorry. If you go to the D&D Celebration 2020 website, there's a big map, and within the pictures, like if you click on Bryn Shader or the Spire of Netheril or something, you'll find a big thing of art from the book. And then sometimes there's interactive stuff within that open puzzles. So basically Easter eggs. And so one of the puzzles that was off of a website, I think it was like comicbook.com posted this, and they did the Mind Sliver picture. And it was a JPEG, and it was like, here's Mind Sliver. And it was, nothing changed from Unearthed Arcana that we could see. But there's a gelatinous ice cube familiar that's in there. There is another spell called Tasha's Mind Whip that is another puzzle that you can solve. And along with that Mind Whip, there was Netherese Ghost Stories, which is a magic item that, let me read it really quick. It says, reading from this Netherese book of horrifying ghost stories for 10 minutes. It grants you advantage on a single related history check and gives the reader nightmares. You must succeed on a DC 13 wisdom saving throw to successfully complete your next long rest. Nice. So you could get advantage on like learning some lore history. And like I said, this is a magic item that is probably very tied to this adventure. Because when you're exploring things about the Netheril, it's like, I really need to understand this device. Well, roll a history check and maybe you can figure out how to like use it or something, or which way to go, just a history check. But I like that. It's kind of fun. So
very cool.
And the gelatinous ice cube familiar is really cool.
That needs to be added as canon.
And I think it is. I think you can use this for Adventure League at least, because it's got a little Adventure League sticker on it. So I think it's an Adventure League thing. And it uses the statistics of an Ublex spawn, apparently. But it's which has higher AC and hit points than most other familiars. And a lot of people were saying, and can like amorphous go through whatever, like inch wide holes and things like that. So, but this is technically an ice cube, so I don't know if it melts. I don't know, but anyway, really cool stuff. Yeah. I'm trying to figure out more. Boy, it's hard. They're really difficult, but
but there's 11 hours of stream you can go watch. It's out there. So there's games and there's panels. Did you check it out? Are there any panels that you want to see going forward? Or most of the stuff I was looking forward, I think, was for today or towards the end of the session, to see what kind of some of the things they had. I did want to finish watching. I got through most of it. The one you were talking about with Chris Perkins and Jeremy talking about the design panel. I've gotten a good ways through that one. I had a super busy work week, so it just wasn't able to get in on the Friday stuff as it started. But I'm probably just going to put it on one screen and be able to do all my other stuff on another screen while I'm backtracking and finding some of the other stuff that I wanted to watch through. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, it looks like literally a little bit after this show, 11 a.m. Pacific, I think. They're going to have another panel today that is just a DM roundtable, and they've got Travis McElroy and Satine Phoenix and Deborah Ann Wool and a bunch of other people. Cool. And they're just going to talk about what it being Dungeon Masters. So that seems like really fun. Yeah. And then what it means to be a bard is at 3 p.m. Pacific today. So that's kind of interesting. Sunday, we have some design panels, weaving Asian stories. There's, Daniel Kwan, he's been doing a lot of work with, not rescinding, but like we need to reorganize the Oriental Adventure Guide to be less racist and to actually celebrate Asian culture as opposed to use it as a stereotype. And I thought, so he's doing really interesting stuff in the world of tabletop games, and has a cool podcast called Asians Represent that you should all check out. So I don't know. You can just search D&D Wizards, the celebration schedule, and there's a list of events. And then, like I said, they always do lots of live shows, and I think the Venture Maidens are doing something, and they're probably all doing.
Hack Inc. is tonight, right? Yeah,
Hack Inc. was last night.
Oh, was it last night? So I got to catch up on the last episode.
I watched an hour of it. It was fun to have Holly Conrad back.
Nice.
She's Strix, basically. She came back, and that was cool.
Good character.
Because that is a good character, and she's just a fun person. And I was like, I was sad that you kind of got lumped in with all that pro Jared stuff, and you're like, we don't like you anymore. And D&D, what was it called? Dice Gamer Action was all canceled, and and a lot of those characters were just like, we miss playing our old characters. So she was in it, and I lost her name. Who is the other that played the automaton, the Lathander Warforged? I can't think of her name.
Now I'm on the spot. I can't think of it. I have her in my in the game I play, which is Untitled Champions of the Forgotten Realms, the computer game on Steam, which is super fun, and I love putting her in the lineup because she's a good tank for the front. Oh, what is her name?
I'm looking it up. Anna Prosser. Yeah.
Anna
Prosser. She's really cool.
Name?
Her character's name is Evelyn. So Evelyn, anyway, so Anna Prosser's in it playing her Evelyn. Holly Conrad's back with Strix, which is just a fun, cool character. And then, of course, Mike Krahulik, back with Jim Dark Magic. And and all of the crew there. And then the other guy, I forget him too. Oh, I don't know. I haven't watched a lot of the later ones, but they got their wrestler friend back again. He's played a Barbarian. That's really exciting. So that was cool. Yeah, everyone in chat, Anna Prosser, guys, Anna Prosser. And I'm like, I'm sorry.
Got it.
Thank you. It's very delayed, the chat on YouTube. So yeah. So anyway, I'll probably watch that this afternoon, maybe, or maybe I'll work out some videos. I don't know. Have it on in the background or something. But check out the D&D Celebration. They're probably going to have some really cool announcement later on, or just more Tasha secrets probably going to come out.
Yeah, and it's a 3-day celebration, right? So it started Friday.
Yep.
So yeah, and usually towards the end of those, there's some type of little hint towards something coming up, right?
Yeah.
So we might get a little hint of something new.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We did get a little hint with the Adventures League Season 10 rules that came out that have the customizing origins. Did you look at any of that?
I did go through a good portion of the Adventure League. I don't know if I saw the origins part, but I was looking through how to create the character, how they were handling magic items again, how they were handling who you could pick seemed to be a big thing going on, like what races were allowed and from what books you could use. So
if you go to Appendix 1, it says customizing your origin. And this is kind of what, this is what Tasha's has been hinting at, is that if you want to play a dwarf, but you don't like that, I want to be a bard dwarf, but you're giving me strength and constitution. I'd much rather take constitution and charisma. Well, you can swap these out, basically, is what they're saying. So whatever D&D race you choose, you get ability score increases, and you can change that. So it says, for example, if you're a dwarf, your constitution increases by 2 because of dwarf heroes in D&D are just tougher. But, excuse me, this doesn't apply to every dwarf. Like maybe you were a dwarf raised by humans or something, or you're in a something else. And so they say, like, if your constitution is 2 and your wisdom is 1, you could instead increase your intelligence by 2 and your charisma by 1. So you can swap those around. It's up to your backstory, basically. And your backstory is a conversation between you and your DM. So if I'm playing like a strict Forgotten Realms game, I might be like, no, I kind of want you to do this. But if it's a homebrew game, like, yeah, I'm a dwarf that traveled with a troupe of actors and jugglers and stuff and blah, blah, blah. So that's where they're going with it. So this is a preview of Tasha's. And then languages, it says you can kind of swap out languages here and there. But the big one was proficiencies. So if you have a skill, a simple weapon, a martial weapon, or a tool, you can replace those here and there. So you can replace a skill for a skill, a simple weapon with another simple weapon or a tool. So if I have simple weapon proficiencies, I could instead say, well, I don't want that. I want thieves tools proficiency. And it's like, oh, okay. Martial weapon, you can swap with any simpler martial weapon or tool. So I'm thinking of like the elves have long swords, but I'm a very dexterous kind of elf. Instead of long swords, I'm going to swap that proficiency with specifically with scimitars. And then the scimitar, I benefit from my dex bonus. I still have a cool sword. It goes into my backstory, blah, blah, blah. And so this is the kind of customization that we've been looking for. And they might expand upon this more, who knows, with Tasha's. But for right now, you can kind of just, I don't know, mix and match. And I don't know, I like it. I feel like it leaves humans in the dust because humans kind of had that, well, we can select everything, but less than, you know, the elf that gets all of these different proficiencies. So I don't know. That's the customizing your new character, I guess.
Yeah. And it lets you kind of delve into some other non traditional versions of a character. So if you probably wouldn't ever, like a halfling that's more like the token halfling, where they're supposed to be super dexterous, super fast. They almost like, you know, the thief, they're really good at being the thieves, but in D&D, their stats don't match out as well that way. So you might not necessarily, you know, go that route because you want pluses to your dex. So you start looking at races that have pluses to dex or something, or, you know, whatever it might be. But I like the idea that you could have a really smart dwarf who is huge into magic, you know, and wants to really cool. So he's super smart, and
I've wanted to make a transmutation dwarf wizard for so long, and Eberron allowed me to do it, but now this is way better because I can just reconfigure the dwarf proficiencies to be like, no, he's been studying magic his whole life. And he's using that magic to like transform this. And it's going to allow players, I think, to make custom worlds that much better, you know, because you're now handed the tools for creating basically custom races. And it's not, you know, like the balance is there. So I kind of like that. But.
Well, and you still can create a character that doesn't have to necessarily match the race you came from. So you could play the drow who isn't stereotypically drow. You could play the Duragar character who isn't stereotypically Duragar. You know, you could play whatever it might be, the Triton who hates water, or, you know, you could play any. I'm playing an Aarakocra that doesn't like flying. That was my kind of contribution to that idea. I just wanted to delve into what would happen if you were playing a Birdman who didn't like to fly. What ends up, what happens there?
Yeah,
because there's going to be somebody in the community that doesn't like something. You know, that's just how it is.
Yeah. Some people in chat were saying like, well, can you be humans with dark vision because you were raised in the Underdark or something? Again, that's a conversation with your DM, but according to these rules, no. It's just ability score preferences or ability score increases that you can swap around, and proficiencies with weapons and tools. And they in the guide, they specifically didn't say proficiencies with armor. So I know a lot of people were talking like, well, I'll take Mountain Dwarf and I'll get rid of my armor proficiency for like all these others. And I'm like, well, it literally only says weapons and skills and tools. So I don't think you could take your, you know, armor proficiency and change it. But Tasha's might change that. Who knows? Yeah. But as far as like, I was imagining it being a bunch of points. And it's like, okay, if you want dark vision for your human, then that's 5 points. If you want this, and that's how I thought they were going to kind of balance it. But this is easier, and it's just swapping, which is, you know, so. So yeah, no dark vision humans. We can't invalidate that dark vision spell that nobody takes because everybody just uses a lantern instead. So. And
as a dungeon master, you can do whatever you want in your worlds anyway. Yeah. So. You know, you can handle, and all of us handle dark vision a little bit differently too, the way we play it and the way we use it in our games and what it can actually do or not do, how good it is or not good. Yeah.
There was a preview of the Wild Soul Barbarian and the Genie Warlock. We won't spend a lot of time on it because they weren't drastically changed from the Unearthed Arcana, but both look cool, and I think it's fun. There was a really silly typo in the Genie Warlock one. Instead of Control Weather, it was Control Warmer. And everyone was like, well, okay, but.
I like the idea, too, that you could make your own rolling wild tables. If you finally got a character to play in your campaign, maybe you could you have the ones they give you, but you also could maybe work with the player and say, let's make some other cool tables that we might roll on every now and then. When you roll double zeros or double numbers, then we'll change to another chart. We'll roll this one and see what it does. And maybe collaborate with them about some different ways the wildness of their soul happens, you know, things that that happen, kind of like the wild magic sorcerer too. The same kind of. Yeah,
no, I have like 3 or 4. I don't know where I got them, but I've got a Ravenloft wild magic sorcerer wild magic table, which is kind of fun, and it just has like, now that you're in Ravenloft, magic is just kind of weird here, and this is what's happening. And there's an Eldritch one I found that are just kind of fun to have. And it surprises your sorcerer because they're like, oh, what? Which is what I feel wild magic is supposed to do.
Oh, so. Now I have another bardic inspiration. Dang it.
Speaking of bardic inspiration, good one. Good segue, sir. We're going to talk about some bardic inspiration.
Are we?
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to play it then.
Okay. So you're welcome, YouTube. I have a new bardic inspiration splash screen.
Do it.
I did. It's really cool. You can't hear it, but it's really awesome. What inspired you this week, Lucian? What is your bardic inspiration?
Well, I just had another one there, but I'll go with my original. I was thinking about Golem Wars or Construct Wars, and the idea was You built a campaign around factions that exist in the world, and those factions fight against each other using golems and constructs to wage war against each other. And what I thought would be cool about that is you could really hone in on the types of constructs or golems that certain factions might use, represent maybe their kind of their personality of a faction, so you might have more metallic ones for certain groups. You might have more like flesh golem ones for another group. You might have elemental style ones, or stone constructions, or sand constructions, or water constructs, or water golems of some sort, or just like all these different maybe groupings, and they're waging war against each other. And then you could have your players either that's all happening around them, but they're still doing adventures while those things are happening or moving around and they see them, or directly involve them in the whole war that's going on between them. And maybe the idea is that because each faction is so stubborn, they keep building these constructs and they keep waging war. And it's gotten to the point where somebody needs to step in and, de-weaponize all these countries because they just keep ramping up their constructs and they ramp it up their constructs. And if it gets too far, then all of a sudden it's Godzilla fighting, Pacific Rim robots and whatever you want to throw in there. But I like the idea from a dungeon master standpoint that you could really use your creativity to figure out what are the constructs that each faction's making, because it represents them. It represents their ideals, it represents their people, it represents their culture, and then that somehow shapes the constructs that they use in their wars, and so I thought that'd be kind of a fun exercise.
Like a dwarf construct would be very different from an elven construct, and a human construct and things like that, and you also use the resources you have. So like the necromancers down the way, their whole nation is going to make flesh golems, and we're going to have like treant kind of things for elves, and you're going to have like weird stone ones and stuff. So, yeah. I
think that'd be super fun. And then the other one that I just had, just because you were talking about Wild Soul Barbarian, what about a very Cthulhu-esque adventure campaign where those eldritch gods are just messing with magic so that all your magics that are happening have some type of randomness to them, or something happens to the spells they're using, and that's the adventure, is trying to get magic back to the way it was before these eldritch gods started messing with whatever you call your weave, or whatever your definition of the magic in your world is. So there's two for you.
There's two. That could be a fun adventure, and that's like I cast I don't know, I'm trying to think of a like magic missile, but instead of magical missiles, it's like little blobs of acidic slime or something, because like magic is literally you're unable to control it as you were before,
And it gets worse the closer you get to one of the eldritch bosses, right? So the closer you get, the worse magic is messed with. So the farther out you are, everything seems to work fine, but you're getting closer as your fireball does something that you did not expect your fireball to do, or something like. It's like an explosion of daffodils or something, just something crazy. So
this is crazy. Well, that's cool.
What
about Jordan? Sorry. My bardic inspiration came, I think we talked about this before, but I have been looking into familiars lately, and I like the Find Familiar spell, and I'm actually using a variant familiar from the Witch Plus Craft. They did a Kickstarter. Really, really cool book. And I like familiars, and so I had this idea of like, what if we had, what if the adventure is everybody's wizards got trapped somewhere, and it's up to the familiars to save them. So you're all gonna play these like silly little animals that have to like infiltrate and rescue your wizard from some magical thing. And I like that. And I don't have any ideas really past that, but I like the idea of like, I play a little piggy bank and you're an imp and you're a gelatinous ice cube. And we're just like, what do we do? Like our masters are trapped in this tower, and you have to figure out using the skills you have, how do you get there and how do you sneak past things? And
closets and imps and pseudo dragons and owls and rats and snakes and all kinds of cool stuff that they're all smart too. They all
they're smart, and they can have a level of magic maybe if you wanted to make it a little easier, or maybe they know how to like, oh well, I know that my master has these potions, we'll go get them, and we'll carry them around, and we can drink these potions to enlarge ourselves or make ourselves smaller or whatever. I don't know. I like it. So I don't know. Like that would be a fun if your party got TPK'd or something, and then it's like, okay, you guys got to play all these familiars to like rescue your main character out of jail. Like I like that. So
that is fun. I like it.
Yeah. But again, I feel like we've talked about that before. I don't really remember.
Maybe. Well, you guys let us know if that was already talked about in an episode. We'll disqualify Jordan.
Disqualify Jordan. He is canceled. Lucian, we haven't talked about games in a while because like we've just had long episodes. What are you doing? What are you playing these days? What's happening?
Dungeon of the Mad Mage. I mean, we went right from Waterdeep, had a great adventure in Waterdeep, and then moved right into Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So I'm definitely doing dungeon delving every week. We're down on level 2-ish. I think we're almost done with level 2. We might be ready to go down to level 3 now.
Are there 20 levels?
I think so. Yeah, there's like, I think there might be more than that. There's like 24, 26 levels of the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. There's something crazy. We've been tasked by Acquisitions Inc., our parent company, to map the dungeons. So we're really going in, and we're not just trying to find the quickest way down or through it. We're going through and really mapping the biggest area. And we got to do about 85-90% before we can really move on as part of our contract. So that's what we've been doing. And that's cool. And what it's taught me, once again, of the adventures where you might say, if you're doing a funhouse adventure and it's this dungeon and you're trying to figure out the logic behind why is there a group of dwarves in this room, and then 50 feet down the hallway there's this other group of something else that hates goblins, but yet they exist in this dungeon, and how do they get there, and how do they eat, and how do they, you don't have to think about any of that stuff. I like that Dungeon of the Mad Mage is a dungeon of the Mad Mage. Things are there because he's a Mad Mage. It is a fun house. It is a weird thing. You know that going into it. And that allows you to really dig deep when you're the dungeon master or making an adventure like this, to pick and choose iconic characters that you want the party to encounter without having to come up with the reason why they would have to encounter it, right? So my example was like, we were in a room where we were fighting a bunch of slimes and gelatinous cube stuff, and then immediately just down the hall, then we get into a big manicore fight, and then down the hall, you know, we get into some other big undead fight, and we're fighting ghouls and gas and all kinds of stuff. That's awesome. And it just, all these iconic things can happen in this dungeon. We don't have to worry so much about how does a griffin live down here? How does it eat? Where does it get its food? Those kinds of things. We can just fight them. We're going to get to fight them. We can fight a black pudding. We fought, and we fought some slimes, which was really cool.
Keep
trying to think of the iconic ones. Yeah.
Because you're just and like,
Flaming Skull. You know, that was different. And then within that, there's this little story that's kind of unfolding as you're exploring stuff. And we just kind of uncovered one of the apprentices of the Mad Mage, which I think is kind of cool to see some of the history about what's going on in this place, and the place can change and move and react to what's going on. So it's an adventure that many people might jump over. It's an adventure that many people might say, wow, it's a bunch of dungeon diving, and I'm a huge RP person, and I don't really like all the dungeon diving. But man, did I really like the idea that at some point I'm going to get to say, I'm sure we'll fight a beholder. I'm sure we're going to fight, just there'll be a dragon in here somewhere. There's going to be all these iconic type of creatures that you want to fight are going to get in here somehow, and you're going to get your party to go up against these things. Mind flayers, I'm sure, will show up somewhere. We're going to fight Drow. We're going to fight Duragar. We're going to fight, just anything and everything's going to pop up in this that I think it's going to be great. So I'm enjoying it. I'm having a really good time. 6th level at the moment. We're about to hit 7th level. I'm in a multi-class for the first time playing in a campaign. I've always theory craft multi-class characters, but I've never really played one starting from 1 to wherever we're going to multi-class. This would be the first time I'm doing 6 levels of fighter, and I get to move into my levels of cleric, and I'm going to do cleric of the Twilight domain. Okay,
that's a UA article.
Really
right?
Cool.
Okay,
yeah, UA article was really cool, and I'm playing this Aarakocra who decides he just has an affinity with the underground, not above ground. So I'm just trying to lean into this whole thing where I might even stop using my wings and I might start, he just like a whole thing he's going through that in my mind that nobody else in the party probably cares about. But in my mind, there's this whole thing going on with this character that I just found interesting and I'm enjoying exploring, which is the best part about being, playing a character.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I wonder if it's one of those, like, I was accidentally transformed into an Aarakocra at birth, but I'm actually a Snurfeblin or something. And so
yeah, I just like this idea. Or what would it be like to be the terror of the dark, but you are an Aarakocra, something that just that Underdark doesn't know about yet as much. They're not ready for the terror of the Hawkman coming in. So
yeah, and I think different games and different game styles for different people. And this is a style, and Dungeon of the Mad Mage was made for people like you that want to just have a fun dungeon crawling experience. That's not for everyone, but either is super heavy roleplay things. Like you don't see, those people that want to number crunch and actually play this game kind of more tactfully. Those aren't the people that are running out to play Monster of the Week and have relationship, things like that. So it's just different for different people. So I think that's a great thing to say, because lots of I enjoy that aspect too. And with the right group that all kind of tactically wants to play like that, it's kind of interesting. So yeah.
It was fun too. One of the characters ended up being, every time he sees a were-rat anywhere, he immediately attacks it because his character has some type of problem with were creatures. We fought some were-rats. He got bit. He failed his con save, and he contracted the were-rat lycanthropy. So he's having to deal with that, and it's coming out in the RP of the game, and it's been really fun to really dig into the idea of that and to play that out. So it is fun, like you said, having the right group that really kind of dives into their characters and all have a similar what they want out of the game. If you want a tactical game and you like moving minis around and you like the lighting on Roll20 and you're just really cool about that, that's you want a group that likes that. Or if you're the group that just loves theater of the mind, they love the story, they love the intrigue, they love the plot twists, make sure all your group likes that and your DM is matched with that. And you're going to have some of the best games that you just want to talk about for hours and hours and hours, when you get your friends to sit down and listen to you. But
yeah.
What did Jordan get to play? He's got a bunch of time to tell us about all his games.
Yeah. So, I'll talk about Rod of Seven Parts. My players are trying to get the 6th rod fragment, so they have 5 of them, and that has led them to a weird extra dimensional space. And I've been having a lot of fun with this because it's like, I think 300-yard diameter world. And in the book, if you read, they haven't really explored this, but in the book, if you dig far enough, you hit a barrier that's just like, no, this is as big as the world is. And if you fly up high enough, it's like, nope, there's the roof. Like it's, you're
it's
in
like a game.
yeah. It's like a game world almost. And you're just kind of like, what are we doing? And it's a big graveyard, and there's a weird evil temple in the center of this area. So they fought some undead. They're kind of like running around. They ran into a guy named Jory Stable, who is claims to be a vampire hunter, and he's here to kill vampires. And the whole module is kind of just leading them in weird directions. And I'm looking forward to when they solve this area and they leave. I'm like, what did you guys think of that? Because it is just like misdirection after misdirection after misdirection, and it's kind of interesting like that. So they went into this temple, and they fought some dragon devil creatures called the Abishi or Abashi. That are found in Descent into Avernus, actually. The stat blocks in that book, I think. And Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, maybe. I don't remember. But so that was fun. They fought some of these dragons and more weird clues, like why are they here and things like that. I don't really understand. They found basically the guy that runs the temple who approached them and said, I have this rod fragment, and if you want it, I need to know I can trust you. Like, what are you going to use it for? And all of them except Lagwin, which is Ted's character, kind of admitted that they were like, well, we're going to use it for selfish purposes. Like, one of them's like, I want to give it back to my government. And the other one's like, well, I want to give it to the Zentarum. And this one's like, well, I want to use it to, like, restore my god, my patron to deity status and things like that. So it's just kind of funny and interesting. And so he's like, well, you should go take care of that Jory guy because I don't like him. And basically, like, I want you to go do that. And so they're kind of in a, do we trust the evil thing over here or the evil thing over here? And they're like, I don't know, what do we do? So that's where we left off, is they're trying to make a decision about what to do with this vampire hunter who doesn't really belong there. And the vampire hunter's like, you need to go take care of the guy in the temple. Like, he's the real bad guy. And they're like, well, what? And I don't know. So lots of fun role play, I like confusing, or I don't know, keeping my players on their toes. And this has been a lot of fun. But
well, last week you talked about you were going to build a map because you wanted the fight to be tactical, and you wanted to did you end up doing that, or did you end up not doing that?
No, I didn't want the fight to be tactical. I wanted them to, because I was bad at describing it, is really what it came down to. So I wanted to do, the temple is like a dungeon that they can explore. And since I was kind of bad at describing it, I was like, my inclination is just to show you the map so that you guys know what I'm talking about, because it's kind of difficult for me to be like, well, I know it's not actually like that. So I did build a Roll20 just for them. And it has the whole dungeon there, and then no dynamic lighting or anything. And I have one icon that represents the whole party. But basically I can be like, you guys are here. You see that you can go east or west and north. Where would you like to go? And so then they're like, oh, okay, like we'll go this way. So they can kind of get a lay of the land. And when we left, they wanted to go to the upstairs to like the roof area. So we'll see what's up there. And they're just going to explore this, and we'll see what happens. They have run into a weird creature with glowing red eyes that was slowly walking towards them. And I was kind of surprised they decided to go back in, because I was like, that thing's still in there, but okay.
Glowing red eyes are never good.
Yeah.
How can that ever be good?
And then my Wild Mount game, we're underground in some kind of weird laboratory area, trying to figure out where we're going. And I don't know. My character's name is Josh A, and I love him so much. And he's a blue tiefling that is a conjuration wizard. And I've been enjoying conjure elementals. So I've been conjuring these air elementals that fight for us, and they roll their own initiative, but I control them. So it's kind of fun. I get like 2 turns per round, which I kind of like. And I can only hold on to him for an hour, and then I have to like let it go. And when you do, after an hour, there's a choice of like unsummoning it. But if I lose concentration on it, the air elemental doesn't go away. It just fights everybody.
Right, yeah.
So that's been kind of fun, because it's like, oh. And then I was thinking about it. I was like, we have the UA new summon things. And there's a UA elemental or a summon for elemental creatures that scales up with your spell slots. And that one, when you lose concentration on it, it just disappears. So it's kind of like a safer way to have a pet. Yeah. And I was talking to my DM, and he's like, oh yeah, throw it in there. So when I level up, I'm going to take that spell, and we're going to utilize this new summon elemental spell. And we'll see what it turns into. It could be a lot of fun.
I went summon heavy.
I like having pets. I've always been a pet class kind of guy.
Yes.
With like Final Fantasy, I was a summoner, and like I played a puppet master and a beastmaster, and I tried to get the Beastmaster Ranger, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted with 5th edition. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to try this Conjuration Wizard. And but we have a lot of fun, because the Conjuration Wizard, one of their like perks is that they can just like conjure things out of nothing, but they're always glowing, and they don't last very long. But I love doing it. Like I conjure hats, and I'm just like, oh, look at my glowing hat. Or I'll conjure like a hammer, and like we have a hammer. And that's just been so much fun to be like, oh, we need that. Poof, here you go. And I have it for a limited amount of time. And I love that aspect of it. So he's very, he's just kind of silly and fun. Like me, but yeah. We are not playing tonight because a couple members are out for the evening, myself included. I've got other plans this evening. So we'll be back next week, but we're just kind of exploring this area, trying to figure out like what's going on. And it looks like they are experimenting with dragons and creating weird dragon hybrids. Whatever dungeon we're in, where you don't even know really how we got there.
Is your timeline part of the same timeline as the Critical Role game, or has he said your actions where they fall within the universe of the Matt Mercer game actions?
Basically, my DM said that yes, Critical Role is there. He's like, but he didn't want to try and match up events. So he's like, just take Critical Role out of the equation. Like they're not on this, like this is your adventure in the world and that's their adventure in the world. And so that's how we've been treating it. So we've ran into various characters that Matt Mercer has created, but we haven't run into the Mighty Nine. And I don't think we ever will. You know, there's just no reason to.
But the timeline's kind of similar.
I think so, because that's the only timeline that's there. Like we're not playing hundreds of years in the past.
Hundreds of years
future,
before or
so,
whatever.
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So yeah, that's it. But yeah, gosh, I'm having lots of fun. I wanna play more characters now that now I really want to get to 9th level spells so I can get that Blade of Disaster and just cut people up with a Planar Rift. That's really cool. So
that sounds badass.
Yeah. It's awesome. I'm not
all right,
lie.
take us out, Jordan.
That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing and all those wonderful things. We would love to have you rate us on iTunes and various other things. I apologize for not releasing the podcast on the correct time, as I finished editing it but did not upload it for some reason, so that's really fun. We will see you all next week with another episode of the Saturday Morning D&D Show, hopefully talking about the various interesting things that are going to be announced. We'll see. Until then, take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye-bye. I do like beef.